Senator Young.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I thank our witnesses for being here today. There are a number of reasons why I regard this hearing as important. If members of my community don't have access to their local news, it can be an impediment to useful information and the decisions they make, the actions they take. Our sense of community can be undermined if we don't have access to information, or our sense of solidarity with our neighbors. But I actually think what's most at stake is our democracy. If I don't know what's happening in the local planning meeting, if I don't know what's happening in the school board, if I don't know where monies are being invested locally as it relates to road projects, it's hard for me to cast informed votes at the ballot box. It's hard for me to meaningfully engage in democracy at the local level. Mr. Waldman, you've spoken to this issue of localism. Could you just take the predicate I've laid and unpack a bit more, say in the next 30 seconds or so, why this hearing is so important to you and should be important to my constituents?
Well, you put it very eloquently. I mean, on some level, there's really concrete harms, literally more government waste and corruption. There's less knowledge about things, but it is also about community and cohesion of community. What we are seeing now as local news has contracted, it's actually led to more polarization. And that's because you don't have the news about the things that bind us together, whether it's the high school sports team, right, or the new theater experience, or the inspiring teacher that just passed away that you learned about. These are things where make people, instead of looking at their neighbors as cartoon characters or caricatures, as actual neighbors.
And we have this twisted phenomenon. It strikes me as twisted. Others have, I think, come to regard it as just the way things are, where even local news is becoming nationalized.
Exactly.
Fitting into a national narrative. And completely unhealthy, superficial, I should add, in terms of how we look at some local issues, and it sells short our citizens as we try and provide them the feedstock to be engaged members of the community. They don't have access. We don't have access. I'll personalize it oftentimes to engage in local issues.
There was a study that came out just yesterday that pointed to exactly this paradox, which is that people actually feel like it's easy to get information about national news and harder to get news about their own neighborhood.
So I thought it was really important to cover that for my constituents and for others, because I think we make a mistake if we just regard this as an issue for business people and investors. It is that. It's a very important consideration, but we also need to be able to debate the merits and demerits of ownership decisions and caps within the context of community. Exactly. Mr. Leggett, if the status quo as it relates to the ownership cap, something we've discussed at some length here, were to remain the same, what would be the impact to local broadcasters 10 years down the road? And what would that mean to my constituents in the state of Indiana?
Thank you, Senator. And just to follow on from your initial remarks, what local stations are doing, what local broadcast stations are doing in your community throughout Indiana is providing that local trusted news, bringing communities together when other forms of media are monetizing division. We are combating mis and disinformation. That's what local broadcasters do best. And we don't have a business if we are not exceptional in the service we're providing in local communities. If you were to look market by market across the country, the #1 station in those markets is the station that is most devoted to those community services. So that is what we are fighting for today, is that trusted local journalism, but it needs scale, right? I alluded to it previously and in my testimony, but today as a standalone, more than half of local broadcast newsrooms in this country are not profitable. We are competing for advertising dollars with Google and Facebook, global behemoths. We're competing for eyeballs with Netflix and Amazon. We need scale in order to better compete. And that scale is going to pay for that localism, that investment in communities that is expensive. No one else in media has boots on the ground when that storm rolls through, both in anticipation, during the storm, and then in the aftermath to help the communities rebuild. And we need scale to compete with these nationwide pay TV providers. Otherwise, we can't fund that journalism, and we certainly can't pay for premier sports like the Super Bowl and keep them on broadcast.